Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
If you
for
could,
having me.
yeah, I don't even know how to pronounce your last name because you're like to me, like I was saying, you're like an internet personality. So it's Layton. What?
It's Elias.
Elias. Okay,
Yeah.
right on. Is that your birth name? I always like to ask if people like changed their name or chose their name.
Oh no, I actually initially changed my name when I left the cult. And
Hmm.
my name it's now like my birth name is now publicly out there. So my name used to be Hannah and now it's Layton. It's been so long. I left the cult like 14 years ago, and when I detransitioned and now I'm in this public detransition lawsuit, and so it kind of had to come out anyway, but it's been long enough that it's okay. But I Yeah, so my name now is chosen, and it's actually a name that I wanted to change my name to long before being in a cult and leaving a cult.
Yeah.
I really that name really resonated with me, and I think there's something special about kind of being able to be whoever we are and whoever we want to be while we're here. That's important to me. So yeah, that's I hope
Yeah,
that
I've just
answers
been noticing
it.
this yeah, absolutely. There's like this theme in my life where I guess people are telling me that they're changing their name, but for some reason I'm
Mm,
finding it interesting too because I go that like that's a big deal, you know what I mean? Because we
mm,
could get into the whole like how naming something gives it a power, changes the
hmm
meaning of it, and the
hmm
whole magic of words themselves and
hmm
how, you know what I mean? Like I saw on your wrist like a tattoo, which I think was really cool and has meaning to it. You know what I mean? Like
mm.
branding things, putting up imagery, the words that you use in
Yes.
your life, all of those things all have an effect on us. So,
Mm,
of course, I can imagine that when you start calling yourself a new name, it must do
mm,
something to your psyche, to your soul,
mm,
something that says, I am a new person. Do you know why? Because people are calling me that every day, you know?
mm.
I think of myself in like a different way now, right?
Oh yeah, and I love that you brought that up too, because that has always been a huge thing for me. I have an Aquarius stellium, so lots of Aquarius energy going on there, and freedom is such a big part of that. And I feel like, as silly as it might sound to a lot of people, there was something about the idea of me not being able to someone else naming me and me not being able to choose that never resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I kind of just thought, I always felt this is my one, not, I don't believe that we only live one life, but this life matters, it's important, and I wanted to
Hey, you only
live
live one
and
life at a time, though, right?
yes, exactly. And I wanted to be able to express myself in a way that felt natural to me. And for me, it has always been very important to define myself, and define myself in a way that where I feel like I can really express myself. And so it's funny because I used to spell Layton differently at first. I didn't know there were multiple spellings. So
Yeah.
there's an actress. I didn't even particularly know much about her, but that's how I heard the name, was Leighton Meester. And I think she was in Gossip Girl, which I've never seen before, but I liked that name a lot, and it kind of went from there. And so I initially spelled my name like that. And I had my gematria done by this man who told me that the spelling of my name was holding me back, and that I was intended to be like successful in these different areas. And I was supposed to be, he literally told me, you're supposed to be speaking places and doing all these things, and you can't because of the spelling of your name. And it might sound superstitious, and maybe it was just an internal thing that had to happen for me. But I was kind of at a place in my life where I thought, you know what, things aren't going too great for me right now. So why
Yeah.
not? I'm just going to change the spelling, and see what happens. And again, whether that was an internal change or if there really was something to it, I don't
Yeah.
really know. But things started to unfold differently for me after that. And so I think there is a lot of power behind that kind of thing, even if it's just in our own beliefs.
Yeah, exactly. Because even I was thinking, I was like, um, it's just one element among many, obviously. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like the way you do your hair, the clothes you put on. It's not like, imagine if someone was like, if you wear these gloves, your whole life's gonna change. Like everything about you, like, put on
Yeah.
the magic red gloves, and that's all you're gonna need. I mean, I guess if you
Yeah.
believed in that hard enough, like the magic feather in Dumbo,
hmm
are you just gonna you can fly, Dumbo?
Oh yeah.
The one little thing that you could do. But all of these things do add up. And maybe I like to think of life more in the terms of like a story. So instead of it
Hmm.
being like a little recipe, you just got to put all these little magic elements together. I go, that was a moment that occurred in your life that was important
Mm,
to you. That was a like a crossroads where you started to learn more information about yourself. And I like to think of it more as about like the things that are occurring and happening than like thinking about all the symbology. So in other
mm,
words,
hmm.
you went to a person to talk about your identity, and he gave
Hmm.
you this thing saying, this is who you need to be, and then you
Mm,
started to change in some way. So instead of like
yeah.
analyzing it too hard about like what does it really mean, because I would also say that there was a small element of truth, you know what I mean? Like your name is
Mm,
important. Gematria, or however you pronounce it, is something interesting and real. I've definitely looked into
hmm.
mine to go like to almost do like a little like stroke my own ego, you know what I mean? Like if my name sounds really cool, then I can just think about it more and go, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Jesse's sweet. That's a cool name. I love it.
Right.
Um, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm also an artist, and so I feel like I engage with the world that way. I think a lot of artists are like that, where it's like things everything has some sort of deeper personal meaning, and I like to interact with things as some kind of ritual or apply meaning to things, even if it's just me applying the meaning. It does something to me, it changes something in me, and it motivates me, it fuels me, it gives me something that maybe I felt like I didn't have before. And I think that if we're not here to be creative and playful within life, then kind of what are we doing? It's
Yeah.
that element is so important, and we have that so strongly within us as children, and then as we age and as we grow up, so many of us lose that, and I've lost it at different points in my life, and I find that whenever I return to that, I just feel more whole. So I think that interacting with the world in that way is something really special and something we can all benefit from, even if
Oh
you don't
yeah.
change your name.
No, exactly. You could be the man with no name, like Clint
Right,
Eastwood.
right.
Doesn't even matter. Um, I'm thinking that wouldn't you say that kind of like the entire point of life is to be like an artist? Like, and I
Mm,
mean this like in a really crazy deep way. That like that's what we're here
hmm.
all here to do is to create beauty in the world and to
Hmm.
that like the you know how like artists talk about the medium, you know what I mean? You use a medium, you like
Hmm.
unless you're some like crazy experimental artist, you're like I'm gonna have a canvas that goes into the wall and becomes a sculpture and it's just one big
Mm,
piece and or it's a interactive piece. I think that all of the world is one big interactive piece, and that
mm,
you come into the world, and that if you imagine everything is your medium, that,
hmm.
and then I even think you could bring in, like I've talked about this in the terms of like alchemy. There's all this like base material around us, and you do start off, and you're born into whatever situation, whatever family you're in, whatever DNA you've been given, and it's almost like, God goes, here you go. Here's some stuff for you to work with. Here's some colors. What are you gonna do with it? And then some people go, well, all I have is gray. This sucks. You know what I mean? What am I gonna do? And then other people go, okay, all I have are these boundaries, these limits. I'm gonna put my soul into this. And then
Hmm.
you make your life as beautiful as you possibly can. And then I have this like fantasy that like maybe that's how we'll be judged at the end of our life is like, hey, you
Mm,
didn't did you make it the most beautiful thing that existed, but did
mm,
you try really hard to make your life as beautiful as you could?
mm. I love that so much. And I feel like that has been kind of a reoccurring thing that I've been thinking about a lot recently too, because with everything I'm doing, I'm always thinking, why am I doing this? What is the motivation behind this? And I think the motivation changes constantly, which is why it's something that I'm always thinking about, because it's less about just my overarching motivation of, I want to be the best person that I can be. I want to help other people. I want to serve, all of those things. I understand those things about myself, but there's always more to that too, of what do I want to add? How do I make sure that what I'm putting out there actually is adding something? And what does it mean? How do I measure that value? Do I measure it? Because to me, especially in the age of social media and everything, it's like really disappointing to see that things are so often measured by views and likes and things like that. And it's like, that's just not, it may be part of our reality right now, but we look at nature and the value that we receive from that is in, it has nothing to do with that. The value that we receive from that is in stillness. I yesterday was connecting with this tree completely by myself and feeling so deeply connected to it. And it's about that inner value that sometimes it can really only be measured through connection. And
Yes.
I think that's so important. And I think that connection is what breeds that beauty and that impulse to create. I mean, even on a literal, even being very literal, when we think of procreation, that can't happen without connection,
Yes.
and I think our society continues to attempt to move farther and farther and farther away from that. And as important as individuation is, and of course we don't want to live in a hive mind, I feel like losing the importance of that connection is scary. And so I'm always thinking in when I'm interacting with things and thinking about the things that I find beautiful and when I feel beauty the most. And it's when I am connecting with people or connecting with nature or connecting with animals. And because it's kind of like a return home to something within yourself. And I don't know if you've ever just been having a crappy day and it feels like nothing's going to make it feel better. And then you go outside and see one of your neighbors and have the most small menial conversation with them. And there's something about that connection that just completely shifts everything and reorients us into what really matters. And so I not to kind of go off on a side tangent with that, but that's what it
Yeah.
makes me think of genuinely.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's the great side tangent. I have times where I'm trying to learn like what is it that energizes me in life? Because I'll have
Hmm.
things and I'm like, oh, I just want to procrastinate and I don't care and what's the point? And then I have other times and I have things where I'm like, I don't even want to go to bed tonight. Oh, this is so interesting. I
Mm,
just want to keep doing this. And then it's like the energy just never f stops flowing. And that I'm trying to
hmm
find those things where I'm in that flow state. And a lot of times it really is where even though I'm not like I don't like being in like a group of people,
hmm
like those kind of freak me out still, to be honest.
Me too.
I try, man. But for some reason, I become this like crazy extrovert when it's one-on-one. Like this is very
Hmm.
energizing for me right now. I'm like,
Right.
let's talk. I can just talk for 3 hours. This is fantastic. So we probably
Mm,
have so much in common. And then it just like lights me up inside. It's really, really
hmm
great. But you passed along like a cool idea in the middle of that where I really like when you were saying connecting with the tree. Because I've thought about that idea a lot too, is like because you're alone and it's something that you're feeling. And then like I have this temptation sometimes in life to go, I'm having this beautiful experience. I have to tell someone about this later. And I hope they
mm,
understand. And I hope they're gonna get it. Oh, they're probably not gonna understand exactly what I mean. That sucks that they're never
hmm
gonna know exactly what I'm going through. Maybe if I could take a picture of it, maybe if I could write about it in some way they'll understand. And then I go, I'm already separated from the moment. I'm not
hmm
here. That there's like, I'm already creating layers of dissociation with the beautiful
hmm
thing that I'm experiencing. And then I'm like, oh, I gotta tell someone about this. And that often happens in like the world now is like there's this thing where everything is becoming like this commodity of sharing. Like we're all trying to like, I wonder how I could create a product that gets someone's attention and people can look at this. And I want so many eyes looking at this. And then I imagine it being something that's like really, really precious and valuable that gets just spread out and like deadened and deadened more and it just loses its life.
mm
And then I was like, okay, you're probably a really philosophical person. You seem like you read a lot of books and stuff. Have you ever heard of this book called I and Thou? It was
hmm
this Jewish philosopher. I don't know if it was like 40s, 50s, and his name was Martin Buber. Hilarious name, but it rhymes with goober. But his philosophy was very interesting because he was basically saying that there's two kinds of relating to the world. There's the I, it, and I
hmm
and thou. So he used thou instead of just you, making it
mm
like more of a sacred thing.
mm
That most of us live life in this I-it relationship of like everything is an object. Even
mm
like, let's say you can be married and then you just go, that person, you're thinking about like what you can do with them, how they make you feel, and you're
mm
still treating them as if it's like a tool to use or an object. But the real sacredness of life, the real spirituality and vulnerability comes from it's just that you and me and that total open connection between you and that
Mm,
person. And he was saying that most people's, even their relationship with God, is that God is like an object to them.
mm.
Real relationship, that that oneness where you become one is I and thou. So I don't know, I thought of that when you said the tree. You can go off of that.
No, I love all of that so much because I feel like this is something that is, for me at least, such a core belief where I see a lot, especially in 2026, where people there is this black pilling that has happened within our relationships that is kind of a product of the kind of government abuse and things like that that we've experienced where we don't really feel like we can trust the news or media. We don't really feel like we can trust our reality. And in an age of social media where so many relationships exist solely through a screen, it is so much easier to, number one, not only not experience that same level of intimacy and trust, or even allowing ourselves to trust another person because we have that very easy distance. And it's so easy to love people through a screen because it doesn't require anything of us. We don't have to compromise anything really. We don't have to actually show up when it matters. We don't even have to really have integrity because the person will never know. And so it's easy to create that massive dissociation. And then on top of the black pilling, there's this kind of and that dissociation in general, and that lack of trust is that feeling of where our desire and drive for individuation is turning into severe isolation because of our environment as a product of our environment. And for me, I'm constantly seeing stuff online, and it's so crazy. It's like everything seems to be curated and tailored, especially on a platform like, for example, TikTok. TikTok is so many toxic ideas floating around on there, and you see so many things, and it's like this, if this person does X, Y, Z, they're an evil, bad person, and
Oh
you can
man,
never trust them. And
I
and
hate that song.
everybody, yeah, everybody's a narcissist, and everybody's trying to sabotage you. Everybody's out to get you. And then you see how so many people are being infected by these ideologies and these mindsets. I have seen in myself times when I have started to become paranoid and feel infected by these mindsets, and then
Yes.
it's like, what is going on? This is not me. This is not how I feel. And then I think, again, back to what I was saying earlier about how I'm always like, what is my underlying motivation and underlying drive? And so much of that is that connection. I feel like part of my life's purpose, and not that I'm the only one with this, I think everyone, so many people have a seed of this that is so important right now. And I think we all have a seed of something that we are intended to sow because it matters and because it's important. But I think there's this seed within me where I feel like I have this drive to keep brotherhood alive, even at my own expense sometimes, but that doesn't seem like a big deal to me, because
Worth the
um,
sacrifice.
yeah, it's like it's not even that big of a deal. I'm not super offended if someone doesn't like me, and if I and that doesn't it doesn't make what I mean by that is it doesn't make me dislike them often.
Yeah.
It's like I feel so motivated towards connection, and if I make a mistake in a relationship, it is very important to me to own up to it and take accountability and work to mend that. To me, the work of that is so important. It is not something that I would ever neglect. And I think that exists within me because we are losing it collectively, and it needs to be nurtured and it needs to be stoked. And I think in my own life, I have been faced with so many circumstances that would want to trigger that black pilling inside of me. And I've
Mhm.
definitely come close in the past to feeling like, oh my gosh, what's the point? Now I understand why everyone else is disconnected. Maybe I should just disconnect too. Maybe I should only look out for myself too, if that's what everybody else is doing. And And it's like I just can't because that's not who I am. It is more important to me to be myself than to protect myself. But that self-protective nature I understand because it comes from survival mode, and it's often not even a morality issue. It's often a capacity issue and something where people they have just been struggling for so long or felt hurt or dissociated for so long that they don't know how to connect anymore. And it's not because, anyone's a better or worse person or something. And so I think that within me, I have this understanding that so much of us are operating from survival mode and that it's a natural response to want to dissociate, to want to push people away, to feel paranoid, to not trust people. But we have to do everything we can to not be broken when it comes to relationships, to come together to mend that, to prioritize things like respect for thou, respect for the other, honor for thou, honor for the other, and think of how can I bridge this gap instead of being divisive. That's also something I've worked on significantly in my life because I've had periods in my life where I was very fiery and felt like I was being divisive. And I don't know, I'm always self-reflecting on those things because at the end of the day, I know connection is so important to me. And I think that it is important to a lot of people. I just think it's hard to access that when we feel like it's not safe. And I think that response makes sense. But I think that right now if we want love to kind of save us from all of this stuff, we have to save it first by not letting it
Yes.
die, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, man, you kind of like, as you're talking, I'm like wanting to say my thing, and then I'm like, you're kind of already doing it though. So it's almost like I would just express the same thing in my own way because
I love
it's just
that.
it's exciting because I'm like, okay, you're feeling what I'm feeling,
mm,
which is that everything is this lack of trust.
hmm
But then you kind of understand it because you go, okay, of
hmm
course, I know where people are coming from. It's like
hmm
a, to say, a trendy therapy word, it's like a trauma response,
yes,
and even that word is
yes.
kind of, the term is overused. And I get it because it's like if you've been hurt 1,000 times, it does become harder to like open yourself up again. And you just go, I'm going to create a
hmm
rule. Don't trust people. That
yep.
simplifies things. Man, it's so
hmm
much easier to just go about my life if I can have these rigid beliefs where I go,
hmm
you can't, and then this is what I see is the all women are like this. Or
yep.
just go 99.9% of women are like this. You better watch
hmm
out. Uh, and don't, it's almost like don't waste your time because the
mm.
second you see, that's why they do the whole like red flag thing is like the second you see that, that's an indicator there's something wrong with that entire person and you
Yeah,
don't.
they're a sociopath.
Yeah, exactly. But the funny thing is I just go, wait, in my marriage, I'm not like loving every single little detail of another
hmm
person all the time,
hmm
constantly. So it'd be funny because
hmm
you go like, well, if you wanted to look for red flags, you could try to do that every single day. Or like, you know
hmm
what I mean? Like, I'd be like, oh, I came home and then my wife left the trash out on the front porch. Red
hmm
flag. That's not
yep.
good, man. She
Gotta
just gotta put
go.
her bird. You know what I mean? But then
yeah.
I'm like, that mindset, if you take it to an extreme, is a mindset that couldn't even be in a relationship, that couldn't
hmm
even be in a one-on-one monogamous relationship for any length
hmm
of time, because those things take a level of like growth that you go through, a growth that can be like a little bit of like a stretching, like a going through like a painful process almost. You know what I mean? Of like,
hmm
who am I? How do I relate to this person? And as I'm changing, as they're changing. And it's this thing, it's like this, I find relationships to be like themselves like a form of therapy. If you're
hmm
open and aware, because they never stop confronting you.
Yes.
And becoming a
Yes.
father recently has been a thing where it's like, here you go. It's like God was like, here's some lessons for you, Jesse. Let's just force a mirror in your face of who you
Mm.
are. So yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with that, except to say that I totally get the lack of trust thing that you're seeing in people and the black pilling where I'm noticing that if I'm online too much, I have so much empathy that I absorb the like hypnotic suggestions a lot. And I'm
hmm
learning this lesson to kind of like I absorbed a lot that changed my life, and in a way, like the
Mm,
internet made me a better person, which sounds funny because I almost wanted to write like a
mm,
blog post, how Twitter made changed my life and made me a better person, because it really
mm,
did. But then I started to just like continue absorbing and all the
mm,
like psyops and trends and stupid shit on there. And
mhm,
then after a while, I'd be like, wait, I have to like narrow it down to what I have to do Jesse's thing. Because I'll have
mhm,
people and be like, if you wear jeans, you're not a cool dude. Cool guys don't wear jeans. And then other guys, you got to be casual. Just wear a pair of jeans every day. And I'm literally like,
mhm,
that's not even an exaggeration. That's the kind of things every day it's people like throwing opposite things.
mhm,
You got to do this one thing. Click on this thread. And after a while, you go, well, I can't do two things at once, can I? Got to choose.
mhm,
You got to choose a person to live with. You got to
mhm,
choose a belief after a while. You got to choose like a way of living and
mhm,
that you can't do everything. And then you have this world shouting at you, do what I do. You know what I mean? And then I
mhm,
realized, you know what I'm going to do? I've absorbed enough of the good stuff that I got to block the bad stuff. And I got to become a voice. Even if it's other people are shouting it out, like crowding it out with their voices, you know what I mean? Shutting it down. I have something to say now. And I want to say with as much confidence as these, idiots who pretend to be like hide behind like a little profile photo. I'm like, I don't know who you
mhm,
are. Now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put my face out there and be a voice and do what you're saying, which is you go, in a sense, the world does tell us we shouldn't trust it. We should
mhm,
doubt. We should be even scared. But then
mhm,
I'm like, how are we supposed to elicit any goodness from other people if we're in that paranoid state?
mhm,
Like I imagine the dating world and I go, if you like are trying to even like I want to fall in love with someone. But your approach as you go, I want to fall in love with someone is that you're just scared the entire time and looking for red flags and like,
mhm,
oh no, everyone's a narcissist. How the hell is that the state of being to be someone who's in love? Like you would need to
mhm,
already be kind of loving life to even attract that kind of person.
mhm. I completely agree with that, and I think too, um, I think this is part of what has drawn so many people into these codependent and romantic relationships with things like ChatGPT, for example, because there's this massive dissociation. There's a lack of relational mirroring because when we are as you were just talking about when we're on the internet and you're faced with hundreds of thousands of opinions every day and you aren't genuinely connecting with people or we are connecting with people but there's kind of this imbalance where we have less of the genuine relational mirroring in contrast to all of the crap being spewed at us 24/7 on the internet. And so, for people that have a very fragile identity and a very fragile sense of self, who are, especially for people that don't have those in person connections at all, it is completely destabilizing. And they end up feeling drawn towards something like ChatGPT where they can share what it is that they feel and have it mirrored back to them saying in a way that a relationship is supposed to in a way that connection is supposed to, and so we're all kind of collectively experiencing this imbalance from that lack of relational mirroring because even if we get that in our real life, which I'm also married. I know you're married, so we experience that way, and then from family and friends and things like that. But then we go on the internet, and it's like the work that we've done with that relational mirroring. The more that you take in, it can still be easily, and then it's like, okay, well. I thought I believed this, and now I've seen 17 other angles of this exact same story or narrative
Yeah.
or situation. And now I don't know down from up, and I kind of don't know what's going on here. I've had experiences before where there have been things that are a genuine conviction of mine. But it's like I'm reading posts on the internet that are kind of stoking that in a way that's not great, and then it's like, why am I so angry about this right now?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I believe in this, but why am I allowing myself to feel so angry over this right now when that's not actually it's not serving me, and I think that that there's we're kind of at a place where, as I was saying, it's like individuation is so important, but then that can invert into isolation. And then passion and motivation and will is so important. All of those things have been completely hijacked and destabilized because our nervous systems are under attack all the time, and we end up in this avoidant place where we are kind of, it's like, okay, well, now my nervous system shut down. I'm in this sympathetic place where I don't know how to take action. I don't know how to move and actually do things. And so the internet kind of perpetuates this idea that's like, oh, well, you can feel like you're doing something if you're just angry all the time about these things. And kind of you can protect yourself if you throw people into these black and white categories, and say that, like you were saying, it's like all women are this or all men are this, or you have to do this to protect yourself, or this is automatically evil. And I think the lack of nuance, it's gone from a place where maybe some of those things would have protected us in the past. For example, in the case of learning about narcissism, in the right lens, that can be helpful for people who have been in a relationship like that and didn't understand what was happening to them. But now it's become this thing where anybody who has confidence or sets boundaries or says something that you don't like, or maybe they're a little bit mean but not necessarily a narcissist. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. All of those people all together are now narcissists, according to the internet. And
Yes.
yeah, just all of these bizarre categorizations that we do, and there's really an imbalance. And I think it is in that connection and in kind of withdrawing. Every week, I take one day of the week off of social media completely, sometimes more than that. And when I really need to, I lock myself in a little Layton jail where I don't go on it for like a week or longer if I feel like it's impacting me to that degree, because it does impact us and it does impact our personalities. And it's not healthy to engage in it constantly. And at the same time, I agree with you that Twitter has absolutely changed my life for the better in so many ways. I have very close friends that I never would have ever had the opportunity to meet if not through something like Twitter. So it's all about that balance. And I think that the extreme polarization that we're facing right now, and how people are really starting to feel that we're kind of at the peak, for now at least, of how extreme things are on social media. It's kind of pushing a lot of people back into nature and back into connection in a lot of ways. It's interesting to see the changes that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, there's like so much to think about when you're talking. It made me go back to that thing about the relationships because it's funny when like how like I'm not dating anymore, but I see all these people doing it, and for some reason I have this like desire to like help them overcome their obstacles. Maybe that's somewhere I need to take
Mm,
my career is
mm,
to because I'm like if I have that passion, I gotta use it
yeah.
somehow. But it's just this thing about like I want the world to love more, even like in a
Hmm.
romantic way. Like just needs to be more romance and love in the world, and then just it's so boring. Like I almost
Yeah.
like laughing at it. It's just this is so stupid, so boring,
Mm,
and I've even reached the point where I'm just like people are just cowards. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? I'm like not really sorry. People are being cowardly. They're being so full of fear. And
mm,
that's just really unattractive.
mm.
I wouldn't be attracted to some like scared person. Get away from me. Don't touch me. Ah. After at some point you'd be like, well, would you be attracted to you? You know,
Mm,
honestly, if you were gonna be in a relationship with yourself, would you want to
mm,
be like with this weird, picky, avoidant person? Would you want to do that? Who do you want to be? Um,
mm.
but yeah, I'm still thinking about those little details, how like I've almost become too rigid because I've been hearing all these messages. Think that you gotta go side with these people because those other people they're not on your side and they'll destroy you and they'll hate you. And
Yes.
I've had moments where I'm like, I really do have to protect myself.
Hmm.
Maybe I do need to like carve out a little niche for myself to avoid too much pain. And maybe there is a so it's weird how it's like it's both true and not. That like I do need to find out my own way of
Mm,
like having that balance, that knife's edge of some conversations I can't talk to everybody, clearly.
Yeah.
But I also have to know when's the right moment for me to like, I do feel this weird desire. Like I was born with this thing. It's even why I became like a hypnotherapist. It's like,
Mm,
I don't believe that people can't be changed. I
mm,
have this weird, crazy belief that like it's almost like a challenge. Challenge accepted when someone goes, I'll never be able to get over this fear. And then I'm like,
mm.
give me time. Give me time and more attention, and
Let's
we'll
do
make
this.
something happen. And that even when I was a little
Mhm,
kid, if someone disagreed with me, I had this weird confidence to go, I can at least get them to feel where I'm coming from. I
mhm,
know that I can get them to feel where I'm coming from. And that utter confidence made me feel like I can get across the mental differences and that like my heart to heart could make a connection where the mind couldn't. And that
mhm.
let's say, like, so we're having, I think we're having a good conversation. But imagine if, like, on Twitter, you were like, anyone whose favorite color is red are just fucked up in the head. You know what I mean? You said that. And then I'd be like, she just broke my heart. I love red. I can't talk to this person. She's clearly crazy. That's a red flag right there. I could never get because if we disagree on colors, oh man, what are we? We're
Right, right.
Asians. We're
Then,
not going to
mhm.
agree on anything. That's clearly.
Yep.
But I've been the person that goes, no, no, no. This is a human being. This is a
Hmm.
human being that has a nervous system, that has a soul. That in the
Mm,
long run, you have all of my insecurities, all of my doubts. You have all of my passions
mm,
and desires. That's all I can think about is that the rest of it is just window dressing. It's just stuff on
mm,
the outside. It's just the barriers. And I've always been a person that goes, you can get through the barriers, Jesse, even when no one believes
mm,
it's possible. So I have this, I guess what I'm trying to do now is like just figure out where to direct that energy of the
mm.
love that can cross boundaries.
I am so obsessed with all of that because I relate so much to it. And it's funny because I'll even notice in myself, any time where I have put a barrier between me and another person because in it's like in this moment I thought this thing is so important though, and as soon as you realize that it's created a barrier, suddenly, at least to me, it's not important anymore. The connection's what's important. And then it kind of rescales everything, and it's like, that's actually not what matters. It may matter to an extent, of course, but it shouldn't create a barrier. And that is so important to me, is constantly bridging those gaps. And it's not a big deal to me if people have differing opinions than me. It's not a big deal to me, if so I have a lot of friends who kind of do the same thing that I do. And so different events or something will happen, and I'll be on Twitter tweeting my interpretation of things, and then, one of them might be tweeting the complete opposite. I've had times where
Yeah.
I'll tweet something and I'm like saying like this is it, and then one of my friends is like anyone who says blah 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 is an idiot, and it's like the exact thing that I've said. And I know that it's not, I'm not taking it personally. I'm very much understanding it as this is their conviction, and I totally understand why they feel that way so strongly. And then often we have a conversation about it, and it doesn't even bother either of us that we have a different take or a different opinion. It doesn't have to mean that you have lost respect for someone or anything like that. If anything, I respect other people so much when we have a differing opinion or some sort of difference between us, or if there has been some sort of conflict and we're both able to meet in the middle and overcome that, there's something so powerful about that, so transformative about that. And so some of my closest friends, we have completely opposing views on several things, and underneath that, we share the value that connection
Yes.
is more important. And that is what brings us together, and that is what bridges that. And to me, I just think that is so powerful. So when other people share that value, like you, it is so impressive to me, because I think it's a lost art. It's
Yes.
something that not a lot of people have the capacity to do. And again, I use the term capacity because I think so often we attach, not necessarily us personally, but society can attach morality to this. And it's like, oh, well, if you can't do that, you must be a bad person. And I think I have fallen into that too with things where it's like, well, if someone can't do that, what's their problem, you know? But it
Yeah.
really does come down to our own convictions and capacity, what matters to us. And I think we have more capacity for those kinds of connections, and more capacity to bridge the gap with other people because it's something that we're intended to do. And so it's like God has given us, or the universe, however you want to look at it, has given us a portion to actually be able to sustain that, maybe more so than another person could. And maybe that will teach other people how to do that more if they didn't have that within them already.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that made me think about how I think it's funny how you can almost have what appears to be a contradictory opinion to someone else, but
Hmm.
then like like I was saying, like my hobby is looking underneath. What's underneath that? Why do you believe that?
Hmm.
Why do you believe that? And it's like
Hmm.
funny because it's kind of how I do therapy, and I think all this stuff is connected. It's just
Mm.
I think it's all like therapy, the way I do it is it's a form of communicating with yourself,
Hmm.
the deeper parts of yourself. And I go, hey, that's how I talk to people. As I go, okay, let's start. I even have like an art form of going, let's start by talking about the weather, and then
Mm.
by in within 20 minutes, we will already be talking about the meaning of life. I almost turn it into like this funny, like, how can I like start with talking about the lampshade behind me and how it looks like a
Mm.
dragonfly, and then just turn it in like any conversation, it's just go deeper and deeper with the questions. But like you can have this contradictory opinion, and then you go, what do you really believe in though? What's important to you?
Mm.
What are your
Hmm.
values? Don't you want the world to be a better place? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Don't, and then like no one's gonna say no to that. So you
Right.
can eventually find that there's always like a yes. There's always some kind of
Mm.
agreement. And that I've even the other thing that you brought up that really like grinds my gears is the whole bad person thing. The
Hmm.
whole you're a bad person. Because I've reached
Yep.
this point where I'm so sick of the moral nagging that I've
Mm.
just decided to reject. I want to reject it because I want to
Mm.
say, okay, cool, I'm a bad person. Let's
Mm.
talk. Let's okay, yeah,
Yep.
cool, I'm a bad person. What are you gonna do about it? Now what? Now what? Or even the point where like someone goes, you associate with that them, they're a bad person. And I'd be like,
Mm.
what's wrong with being a bad person? Tell me more. Do you
Mm.
really have deep values about this, or are you just
Mm.
parroting something? Because I
Hmm.
just go, um we're so constrained by all these weird moral ideas, and I don't know if
Mm.
they come from like people's souls. I think it's more just like a conditioned response
Mm.
to say that's bad, and then I'm like, do you have you really like pondered on this? Is this really something that you feel deep inside of you?
Mm.
Because I'm like, in the long run, I think we all kind of share the same morals. I really think
Hmm.
that we all do deep down. And a lot of this other stuff is more like societal conditioning, or like it's more of like a social like in-group out-group thing. They really don't think you're a bad person, but they know if they call you a bad person, they don't have to like they can just go, shoo, go away. I don't want to have to talk to you. It's too hard, right?
Yep.
Um, so man, where was I going with that? I was just I've reached the point where like I really am a person who believes in loving people, and like so
Mm.
much deep down, it really is like I'm such a deeply moral person. But I've decided that I'm so tired of the morality, like bashing people over the head with the rules, and that I wish
Mm.
sometimes I could contradict it and just go, okay, um, yeah, I'm doing the wrong thing. You couldn't be a
Mm.
bad person if you want to. Why don't you just go break more rules? Be a narcissist. Yeah. You only have one life to live. Might as well just do the wrong thing. You know what I mean? And then I feel like that kind of like breaks the framing of you have to be a good person. And then what they do is they're hoping that when you agree with that, you agree with their version of what a good
Hmm.
person would be. So it's kind of like a little bit like a word trick to get you
Mm.
in their moral viewpoint, right?
Oh yeah, and even just things, because it's like we have all assigned a different value to something. One of my best friends years ago changed my life when I had told her, this was probably in 2021, and I was telling her about my perception of an interaction I had had, which I don't even remember what it was at that point, but it was something that had bothered me. And she said, okay, she said, so you told me what the interaction was. Now tell me what you made it mean. What did you make it mean about yourself? What did you make it mean about this other person? And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think about all the time now, where if I think that someone's a bad person, why do I think that? What am I making their actions mean? And I think also our ability to kind of de-shame things within ourselves correlates with our ability to have grace for other people as well. Because the less I can have grace for another person, it probably comes from a place of deep shame within myself. That toxic shame that poisons us
Yeah.
inside and poisons our view of the world. And so, one example of this is that I used to, when my world was smaller, when my social world was smaller, but even as it grew, I kind of prided myself on always responding to people, and not always responding, not only that, but immediately. And because that connection's so important to me, that's a value that I have. And eventually I reached a point where I was so burnt out because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm spending, 5, 6 hours a day sitting down, individually responding in depth to all of these people, and now I don't even have time to do my work. I'm falling behind on the broader things that actually have the potential to help more people. And so what would happen was, if someone else wasn't doing that, I kind of had this idea of, well, it takes 2 seconds to respond. Don't you care about your audience? Don't you care about these
Hmm.
people? Why wouldn't you want to do that? And that was me making it about morality and not understanding that it's actually about capacity, and that we're not supposed to, where morality is something that is supposed to come within us, that it's just too nuanced to assign these values to different things. And obviously we can talk about things like intent versus impact, and understand that someone may not have the capacity for something, and if I don't understand that, that can still impact me negatively, but that doesn't mean that they're a bad person, or it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
they did something wrong. And
Also,
all of
Layton,
yeah,
I was
all
gonna
of
say, I want to say something really funny. Hey, Layton, haven't you ever done the wrong thing before? I know I have.
yes,
We do this thing where it's almost like currently I'm doing all of the right things that are according to
yes.
my point of view. And I'm gonna
Hmm.
now like I'm not currently doing anything wrong at all. You know what I mean?
Yep,
But like,
yep.
but you are a bad person. So I'm like, wait, like probably today I'll do something that's like a failing of some kind.
Hmm.
And then according to my own way of labeling, I'd be like, I'm a bad person, therefore, red flag. I must be
Yep.
Jesse must be a bad guy. No one should talk to me. And then you know what I mean? Like if you just
Hmm.
went on the internet, no one talk to me. I'm a bad person.
I
Don't you
suck now.
dare. I just was thinking too about, I don't know if you've seen this movie called Dead Man Walking, but I saw it as
Mm-mm.
a kid and it just profoundly affected me. And it's this true story about this nun who went to visit this man on death row. And she had this like connection and relationship where it's like they became almost friends. And it was weird for her to know that he was going to die. And it's just a really dramatic movie. And she watches him have to be, executed and but just the drama of the being the one person that goes, if no one will communicate with this person, I will do it. It doesn't take
Mm-hmm.
everyone to communicate. Not everyone has to do the right thing.
Hmm.
And that's just the most dramatic example of like that guy
Hmm.
killed people. Yes, he's a bad person.
Hmm.
Yes. Now what? What are you gonna do? You can't reach back into the past and change it.
Hmm.
We labeled him now. But where do we go from here? So
Hmm.
anyway, I just thought that was funny. It's as if like we've never screwed up before, Like
Hmm.
I've come so far. So I would be like, wouldn't I have already just rejected parts of myself from the past? And then probably 10 years from now, I'm gonna look back at my life now and go, what a little kid you were. Oh, you had so much growing
Yes.
to do. What a crazy person you were back then.
Mm.
Right?
I love you bringing up that movie too, because I've never seen it, but it reminds me of when I was in rehab, and that was in 2011 to 2012. And I became obsessed with the story of this woman named Carla Faye Tucker, who was a heroin addict who, in a drug craze, murdered this couple pretty brutally. And then she went to prison and found God. And of course, I don't know. There are so many people that believe her that she found God. Then there are people that say no way because they think that someone couldn't do something like that and still find God. I'm not God, so I don't know her heart. But I do believe that someone can do that and still have an encounter with God that changes them and transforms them. I believe that they can do something like that, and still transform as a person. And I believe that there is still there is still a possibility for redemption, and that is something that a lot of people disagree with me on constantly, but it's something that I feel so strongly, and that makes me want to bridge the gap with things and want to be the person who's talking to the person that everyone thinks is never going to make it, because I was the person that everyone thought was never going to make it, when I was a drug addict and an alcoholic and everything, and I didn't think I was going to make it, certainly, and no one else in my life thought I was going to make it, and I was like, just I didn't have a life outside of that. And so experiencing that within my own life, I know it's possible for other people. And I always want to remind myself of that. I never want to forget, where I came from or what my life used to look like. And I want to be so open about that so that other people can say, oh, my life looks like this now, but so did hers. And she's not living like that anymore. And maybe that means that there's a chance for me too. Maybe that means that there's hope for me too, because there is. And that's another reason why I hate this whole idea of categorizing people as, good people versus bad people, and of course there are people that they want to hurt other people. Of course that exists. But I just think that so much of what we categorize as that is a trauma response, in the sense of, I think, just living our life so disconnected from our true nature, from nature itself, from connection, all of those things. There is an element of trauma there. Absolutely, there's a massive element of dissociation, and that changes people. That impacts them on a neurobiological level, on a neurochemical level. And I think that that's important, and I think that we can help repair that by choosing to love the people that everybody else kind of sees as unlovable. I was seen as unlovable, and to me it's important to remember that, because then I'm less likely to do that to another person.
Yeah, wow. Oh my gosh. That's like I was saying earlier, is like how life is like a story, and then that's the
Hmm.
way I frame it that makes me usually feel better about it, is instead of constantly looking at exactly where someone is today,
Hmm.
I have to like kind of like zoom out the picture, look at the big picture and go,
Hmm.
okay, where did the story begin? Where is it headed? And then I have to go, wait, where, let's say like I'm halfway through my journey of life, right?
Hmm.
I'm in the middle of the book. But I go, where are they in their journey? Are they in the middle of the
Right.
book? Maybe they're in their first chapter. And you have to
Mm.
figure out like you're judging people based on where they are, and we have no
Hmm.
idea. And that's why I tend to find comfort in the idea of like maybe some people they're gonna be born born again, but I mean in a different way, meaning like
Mm.
reborn one day. Because I just go,
Mm.
maybe they have like maybe that's something that takes 3 lifetimes, and they're
Mm.
they're starting out pretty low. And then maybe I had like maybe I've already been at a low before and that I'm like really trying. So it
Mm.
all depends really on like how you measure it. Like ever heard
Mm.
people say that like someone is like really really overweight but they're at the gym and then it's just like, hey, that could have been the same guy in the treadmill over there 3 years ago. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And
yeah.
it's like
Mm.
you can't, how do you know who to judge? Because like
Mm.
anyway, yeah, I'm gonna repeat myself. I just think that's an interesting way to look at it.
No, I honestly love this conversation because I feel like we share so many similar thought processes that are really important. That I think it's, like I said, I don't find a lot of people that have um that think in such a nuanced way, and I think that that's something that the world really needs right now. And I think everyone has a perspective that the world needs to integrate. And I think for us, this is just our part of our seed, that how important this is. But I always say that judgment is what happens when we view someone else's mistake as their destination, but we view our mistake as like that, like, oh, this is just part of my journey. And I'm not going to judge myself to that degree because I'm learning and growing. But then someone else does the same thing, and it's like that's your destination. You screwed up, last chance, and I'm never going to talk to you again. And when I catch myself doing that, that's when I end up the most disappointed with myself, and I'm like, I got to do better, and call myself higher, because I think it's just so easy to do that. And I never want to forget where I came from, and I never want to forget what's possible for people. And I want to make sure more than that, more than me not forgetting, I want to make sure they don't forget. I want to make sure that they know that they have a chance and a shot, and that their life is worth something, that it matters, that they can do anything with it. And I think I spend my day to day teaching individual one-on-one psychic development and spiritual development, and things like that. And to me, being a teacher, which you have to be a perpetual student for all the time in order for
Yes.
that to really be a thing, it's like I think of this analogy because like we all associate teachers with apples, and I think there are some people out there who they kind of think, oh, teaching is that I'm always giving you the apple and you're consuming it, and then you're coming back to me for more and more and more. But to me, it's like I want to give you the apple just like what was given to me, and I want you to consume it, and then take that seed, plant it, grow your own apple tree, and then you turn around and do that and help
Yeah.
other people. And I think that's what all of us are intended to do to some degree, regardless of whether or not you're teaching this, or you're a therapist, or whatever it is that you're doing. It's like we are intended to give someone a seed of something for them to plant, to then be able to go grow something for themselves, so that they can go and in turn offer that to other people, and that will create such a huge ripple effect that will bring so much healing to the world. And I always try and scale it back to that too, because as I was saying before, so much of what we do can be measured by, society wants to measure it by how many followers do you have? How much money are
Ugh.
you making? All of these things. Who are you connected to? And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? What does your ripple look like? And how can you invest in that more? Like you said, people come to you and they have a fear that they think they'll never overcome, and you're like, let's see about that.
Mhm.
What can I do to take on this challenge and help you see that anything is possible? And then that creates a massive ripple effect, because something like overcoming fear, that can change the entire trajectory of their life forever, and
Yeah.
then give them enough motivation to go and do things that they never would have otherwise done. It's so important what you're doing.
Yeah, it's like to constantly reference movies. Pay it forward. I really think that's like a cool concept because
Mm.
it's something that would just like exponentially like explode through society like a fire. I
Yeah.
really think I would love to set a fire in the world would be I really think
Mm.
that's a cool dramatic way to put it. People think the fires are scary, but I'm like, no, no, no. Fire represents passion and love,
Yeah.
and yeah, it'd be great. And then what you said, the building a tree or
Mm.
yeah, growing a tree. And I like the idea because a teacher is someone I imagine who's really curious,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
I mean, I
You
hope
have
you
to
are. I
be,
hope
yeah.
you are. Otherwise, you're a really bad teacher. But
Yes.
a good teacher is really, really curious all the time. That's why they're
Mm.
a teacher. They're just like, I'm so curious. My brain is filled up with stuff. It's overflowing. Aren't you curious too? Let's both be
Mm.
curious together. I'm at this point now where I've started to notice that anyone who's really like maybe not the confidence, but you can feel there's an energy when they claim, "Oh, I know a lot about this. I really know a lot." And I'm like, "You don't know anything." Because
Yeah.
sometimes I'll have people go, "Oh, you seem to know a lot." And I'll be like, "I feel like I'm a beginner, like I have no idea what I'm doing
Mhm.
all of the time." And I
Mm.
think that's great. Like I had this book I read when I was a kid called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And I think beginner's mind is something that I don't even have to try and have. I just
Mm,
automatically feel like I don't know what I'm doing. But sometimes having that I don't know what I'm doing, I think that represents my own curiosity, kind of like starting afresh, but a
mhm,
childlike thing where each time I work with a person, I'm like, I just kind of start anew because each person's different. So I'm like, here we go, learn
mhm,
everything over again with this new person. Like with this
mhm,
conversation with you, I'm trying as much as I can to just be like, forget everything you know, and it would be like
mhm,
just to be curious. You know what I mean? Because
mhm,
I have questions that I already thought like, oh, I could ask this, I could ask this, and now I'm like, throw it all aside, just let the conversation take charge, and be curious about where it's leading
mhm,
us, right? Um, Speaking of which, I try to keep these down to an hour so that I can respect the time of all of my guests and then see if they like it enough to want to come back and talk more about a bunch of cool stuff. So, this was great. I kind of have to bring it to a close, but I always want to give you the opportunity if people are watching this and they go, "Hey, I think Layton seems like a really cool person from the naturalness of this conversation." The passion that we're showing and what we and we're sharing our values with people right now, right?
mhm.
So if people are listening and they vibe with this, they like it, then that makes them want to learn more. So maybe if there's some, I don't know, website or something where people can go learn more about you, if you could share that.
Yeah, my website is called psychicsomatic.com. And
Right
then
on.
I'm on YouTube as Psychic Somatics and also Instagram and Twitter as Psychic Somatics.
Right on. Okay, so yeah, I basically asked you none of the questions that I wanted to ask when I came
That's
on here.
okay. I had so much fun.
I know this was good. So yeah, open invitation if you ever want to come back, and then I can actually go, what the heck is psychic somatics? Tell me more about that. How did you get to be where you are now? And then we can go on with it. Sound good? All right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would love that.
Sweet. Okay, and that's it for today.